administration did nothing as they kept on dumping washers into the U.S. market with impunity. The Obama-Biden administration was laughed at. They were a joke, and they were perfectly happy to let China win. Your jobs disappear and your factory to close. And you know what it was like. I came through today, and everybody was out there, tremendous crowds, waving and cheering. I said, I must have done it right, because you had people that were really something. Because 4 or 5 years ago, this place was a disaster. In 2017, Whirlpool won relief from the ITC once again. Once more, your foreign competitors moved their factories to prevent a level playing field and to avoid liability, shifting production to Thailand and to Vietnam. Thailand and Vietnam, two places that I like their leaders very much. They're very nice to us. Do they take advantage of the United States? But not so much anymore. But this time there was one big difference. Instead of an administration that sold out American workers and sold your company out and couldn't have cared less for you, you finally had a president who stood up for the American worker. On January 23rd, 2018, at my desk in the Oval Office, I proudly signed the order to impose a 50% tariff on all foreign-made washing machines. As a result, Whirlpool's 9 factories across the United States were soon thriving like never before, investing in new products, new infrastructure, and hundreds of new American jobs. And I just took a tour, and I actually wanted a couple of those machines for myself, but I just didn't know it was going to be appropriate to ask. But they are beautiful. That includes thousands of new jobs across the Ohio supply chain, from right here in Clyde to Findlay, Ottawa, Greenville, and Marion. All over. Your company became a shining example. From really a company that was down and out, it became a shining example of what tough trade policies and smart tariffs can bring to jobs and prosperity, to communities like this one all over Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and plenty of other states. They're all doing well. They were doing great. Then the plague came in, and now they're doing great again. We closed it up. We saved millions of lives, but now we're opening, and it looks like I was right about the V, because you're seeing the kind of numbers that are coming in, and they're coming in strong. They're coming in strong. Should have never happened. Should have never happened. China should have never let it happen. In defending your jobs here at Whirlpool, I was doing exactly what I promised in June 2016. As a candidate for president, I stood before an audience of hardworking patriots at a metals processing facility outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to outline my plan for a new America First trade policy. And it was even a better job than I told you. I'm one politician that says, I'm going to do this, and then we do better. We produced more than I promised. And by the way, the wall is being built. It's going to be finished very soon. In my speech, I warned that our politicians have aggressively pursued a policy of globalization, moving our jobs, our wealth, and our factories overseas. I explained that globalization, these are the globalists. I'm not liking globalists too much, but they don't like me too much either. Globalization has made the financial elites who donate to politicians very wealthy, but it's left millions and millions of our workers with nothing but poverty and heartache, and our towns and cities with empty factories and plants. For years later, we've made extraordinary progress in reversing the dangerous tide of globalism. Over a period of 4 to 5 years, this took place. Think of it, 4 to 5 years. What we've done is a miracle, and now it's getting even better because we've taken additional steps. And you know, when you do these steps, you have to go through statutory procedures. It's not like boom, I'm going to just sign it. Has to go out for 90 days of review, then 120 days of review, then more, and we did it as quick as we can. We're doing it right now with the FDA. We're getting vaccines approved in days that nobody thought possible. It would take years and years, and we're doing it in months. We're doing very well. Under my administration, we're fighting for Main Street, not Wall Street. We've rejected globalism and embraced patriotism. In my speech in Pittsburgh in June of 2016, I made 7 big promises to American workers. Many politicians before me promised change on the campaign trail, only to back down in the face of corporate and international pressure. Like Jerusalem, they all promised Jerusalem, didn't they? For years and years. I did it. They didn't do it. They didn't do it. I did it. Moved the embassy to Jerusalem, making Jerusalem the capital of Israel. They all talked about it. They talked and talked and talked, and then they got into office and they didn't do it. And I understand why. The pressure was enormous on me too. I just didn't take the phone calls. That's true. Leaders would call up from other countries. I say, I know what they're calling about. I'll call them back in a few days. Then I just signed all the papers, got it done, and then I called them back. They said, I was calling about Israel and Jerusalem, but you've already done it. I said, that's right. And they said, oh, okay. I said, hey, I wish you got me a little bit earlier. But I didn't back down from my promises, and I've kept every single one. First, I promised to withdraw the United States from the last administration's disastrous assault on U.S. workers. The Trans-Pacific Partnership would have been a disaster. Would have been a disaster, especially for the automobile industry. Would have put it out of business. My first week in office, I kept that promise and canceled that job-killing catastrophe. Second, I pledged to appoint the toughest and smartest trade negotiators to defend American jobs, and I did with Bob Lighthizer and all of his people. They've been fantastic. Third, I said I would use every legal tool at my disposal to fight back against unfair trade, and I did, and I found some that nobody even knew about. Some of them were very old. They had a lot of dust on them, hadn't been used for decades and decades, but I found them. Things you could never get past today. Fourth, I promised to label China a currency manipulator, and I did. Fifth, I said we would bring trade cases against China to crack down on its economic aggression. Sixth, I committed to impose tariffs on goods to protect American jobs and stop China and many other countries' abuses under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 and Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. As your president, I have kept every single one of these pledges to the American people and to the American worker without exception. Every one has been done.